The Last of Us really made a huge mark on the games industry, both from its story, rich two main protagonists, atmosphere, and survival stealth action gameplay. Right from the introduction, we were invested in Joel's journey, and then how Joel and Ellie would make it out of this. The narrative was extremely bleak, with appreciated moments of heart and hope. Gameplay-wise, there was a focus on stealth and using whatever you could to survive the current encounter, and then hopefully have enough left to make it through the next one as well. I feel like I'm in the same boat as many who played it. It's one of the most memorable experiences that stays with you. Recently, I started playing A Plague's Tale: Innocence. I heard some really good stuff about it, and many of my viewers have brought this game to my attention as one that they really enjoy. I felt like with the sequel on the way that it would be a good opportunity to dive in now, and while I'm not finished with it yet, I feel compelled to talk about it. It definitely feels inspired by The Last of Us and stories of its type, as the main adventure here features a young child and their protector trying to survive. Now I'm only halfway through it, and I find it very hard to put down. I think I am beginning to understand why so many love this game and consider this title to be very underrated, even though it was critically praised. And I think much of this is that this game deserves even more attention than it got. The setting is medieval France, and you follow a sister and a brother as they're trying to escape an enemy that is solely focused on trying to capture the brother. There's an interesting mystery here that acts as one hook, along with many other captivating elements. Gameplay-wise, this is not an all-out action title. It is a slower yet tension-filled stealth-focused game, where you need to properly assess each area. Encounters with the rats or soldiers act like these survival puzzles, as you see what you have and what is in the environment that you can use to either escape or defeat your foes to pass. It is also really refreshing to play a linear story-focused game. There's no live service stuff here. This feels like a complete game so far, and honestly it feels like how games used to be made. A Plague's Tale feels carefully crafted to create maximum entertainment as it's hard to put down.
Intruders! En garde!
Something I really like with Plague's Tale is how it continually builds, but this isn't done in a manner where it feels like the game is holding the player back with annoying tutorials, but instead new mechanics and moves are provided in a more organic way that ensures new things are introduced to the player as a means to build off what came before. This gives off the nature like our main character is not only growing, but we are growing with her. As such, there's a good amount of weight behind how vulnerable you are in this world. Most attacks can take you out in one hit, which in turn cranks up the tension whenever an enemy is around, and at least where I currently am in the game, I haven't found this mechanic annoying yet. This may seem like everything is an instant fail like section, but that isn't really how it's done here, as you have a lot of options to succeed. You are vulnerable more so than in other games, but you need to look at this almost like a classic survival horror title, where most things can significantly hurt you. On the flip side, that means that when you are in a position of power, it's very gratifying. Along with this, the combination of how your health works, dealing with enemies, stealth, and your equipment all creates these intense situations. Even simple stuff like getting caught and trying to pull off a headshot with your sling becomes a nail-biter, as you are trying to wind up your sling for a good hit before the enemy comes and gets you. A Plague's Tale does a good job with building tension and then releasing it.
Nowhere for you to go out there.
Shut up! Shut up! Leave us alone!
Guards! The shot!
Amicia! Come on!
Let's go over some of the mechanics. For stealth, you start out with relying on your crouch walk, observing enemies, and timing your movements to pieces of cover. You can even hide in tall grass as a means to get to a better position. Rocks are one of your most valuable resources. You can use these as a means to hit other pieces of metal to cause a distraction. The game will provide you with indicators on which guards will be alerted to your throws. As a side note, you can play the game with all of the visual indicators turned off, which does make the game a lot harder, while also furthering the immersion. So if you want a more challenging experience, maybe consider this route. Now if there's nothing nearby to hit with your rock, sometimes you'll need something bigger to draw an enemy's attention. This is where you can throw a pot, but you cannot carry many of them. Something else to keep in mind is how you will always have your brother Hugo. He will be holding onto Amicia's hand at all times, and then there will be parts where you need to separate, but you need to keep in mind he will get scared and draw attention in if you go too far from him. While this may seem annoying, I think it works well since he has been locked away from the world, and you are his only protector. While much of the gameplay has been less direct confrontations, I have had moments of using my sling. It has a wind-up, and as long as you can go for someone's head, you can take them out. From the wind-up to the thud of hitting someone, both the sound and impact sell this very well.
Still nothing. Are you sure she didn't leave the camp?
Are you sure about that? Come on.
Now, the soldiers will not be the only things that you need to contend with. Throughout the campaign, you will need to deal with swarms of rats. What helps to keep them at bay is fire, so torches will be your best friend during these parts. Torches come in their own varieties too, with some of them never going out and others burning very quickly. Much of these encounters will have you trying to find a source of fire and then use that to get past the swarm. This may involve knocking something down that can be lit on fire, or even taking something that is more mobile and pushing it towards the exit. What I have begun to experience is really interesting is the blending of human enemies with the rats. Some of them can even be darkly funny as you take out an enemy's light source and use this as a way to get past your opposition. And in some cases you won't have any light and you'll need to find other sources of food to distract the rats as you move past them. So far, encounters with other soldiers are very intimate. It is usually you up against just a few of them, and while on a smaller scale the intensity is very high. This is really well done in an early boss fight as you are knocking off pieces of armor to expose the boss's head to then sling a rock at him. Each of the combat situations, stealth areas, and rat parts all feel like these interesting puzzles where you are applying what the game has showed you before in a new way. As such, A Plague's Tale has a continuous puzzle-solving element to its stealth and combat systems. Along with this, there are more traditional puzzles here, and while light, I do like them so far, like finding something to reach and escape that is up high, or ordering allies around to create a bridge. When it comes to progression, the game does a good job with it. Like I said before, A Plague's Tale continually builds on top of what you had or learned before. For example, the sling is only used to hit objects at first, and then you're able to upgrade it to hurt people. Crafting materials can be found and you can choose what to focus on, either making upgrading easier for you, improving your sling, and more. You'll also be able to craft useful consumables like fire bombs for the rats or instant kill potions for armored guards. Much of this will come down to choice as the upgrades and consumables both use the same supplies.
About time!
Oh no!
Hey! Hey! What are you doing? Stop!
Sorry! We have to get out!
Amicia!
While keeping the spoilers limited, Amicia and Hugo are on the run from the Inquisition and are forced to leave their old lives behind. The start of the game quickly shifts to showing how bleak this world is, and this is continually reinforced through the first chapter. Most of the story deals with Amicia trying to protect Hugo. What makes this interesting is one, she is only an adolescent and essentially trying to do her best. Her and Hugo never had the closest relationship before, because Hugo was mostly hidden from the world. This means that both of them need to learn to work with each other as a team. There's a lot of tension that comes out of this as they both struggle with it. Some of their fighting might even seem juvenile, but this would totally fit in with these characters of their age. Something I want to praise for the game is having a leading lady who has flaws and learns and grows from her mistakes. She doesn't always handle Hugo the best, and she realizes that she was wrong. Many modern writers are afraid to write leading women as people with flaws to overcome, which results in many of them being Mary Sues. So far, Amicia is someone that I can root for, understand, and how flawed she is. Before we move to the conclusion, I want to mention the soundtrack. This soundtrack is outstanding. This composer has a really good body of work, but here he has really outdone himself. Here are a few tracks from the game. I'm about halfway through A Plague's Tale, and I feel like I am pretty late to the party, since the game has been out for a while and I very much have been seeing how great everyone thinks this game is. From the story to the gameplay, it's really well done. The narrative hooks you in, and the chapters are well paced. This is a good title to play in chunks as each chapter feels satisfying, or you can binge the entire thing. Gameplay wise, I like how the stealth is mixed in with the human and rat enemies. Feels rooted in something simple, yet done very well here with enough depth. The situations are interesting interesting in that it sets up dilemmas on trying to figure out how to get by or be able to attack your enemies head on if you need to. I plan on doing a full review once I beat the game, but as of right now, I highly recommend it. For those who have played it, what do you think of this title and why do you like or love it? If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.